Melbourne's Hitachi electric suburban trains first entered service in 1972. They were known for their corrugated stainless steel exterior, stylish pointy nose, and lack of air conditioning. Despite the name, these trains were not built by Japanese company Hitachi, they just designed the electrical equipment. These trains were built in Melbourne by local firm Martin & King. Hitachis were one of the trains of my childhood, and as a teenager in the 2000s, I spent a lot of time riding them around the network in their final years. They finished up in revenue service by the end of 2013, or possibly very early 2014, depending on who you ask, and the last opportunity to ride on one as a passenger was on the 12th of April 2014, when a special farewell tour was run for enthusiasts, travelling the length of the Craigieburn, South Morang and Sunbury lines, including 3 laps of the underground City Loop. After that, the remaining sets were slowly sold off or scrapped, and the final time a Hitachi ever moved under its own power was in October 2015, 18 months after the farewell tour, when the final set was transferred empty from Macaulay Light Repair Centre to Newport Workshops. And that was it. No more moving Hitachis. Until now. In March 2026, a single Hitachi carriage was returned to operational condition, in a very surprising move that I did not even slightly see coming. This is the Mornington Tourist Railway, which runs historic trains on the former Victorian Railway's Mornington branch line between Murdoch and Mornington, about 50 kilometres south of the Melbourne CBD. The railway normally uses a collection of timber-bodied carriages from the first half of the 20th century for their steam or diesel-hauled trains, presenting a very typical VR branch line scene. However, this latest acquisition is something a bit more radical. This is Hitachi Trailer Car 1946T, which was brought to Murdoch by road in July 2025 and modified for use on Mornington's regular Sunday excursion trains. Its first use was on the 15th of March 2026, just shy of 12 years since the last time any Hitachi car carried passengers, and I dropped in the following week on the 22nd of March to relive some of that early 2010s nostalgia. While the previous week's train had been run by a T-Class diesel, on this second day of operation the train was being worked by 1941 built K-Class 280 K163, making this, to my knowledge, the first time any Hitachi car has ever been hauled by a steam locomotive. I mean, it might have happened during shunting at Newport, but at the very least, the first time ever with paying passengers on board. 1946T was first withdrawn from service in I think 2004 or 5, but in 2007 it was part of a group of Hitachi cars which were purchased or hired back from private owners and preservationists when the government panicked and realised they'd got rid of too many trains too quickly. A 6-car set made up of the returned cars rejoined regular suburban service with Connex, in addition to the 6 other sets they still had running at the time. Here's a picture I took of 1946T on a down Hurstbridge service at Montmorency in the winter of 2008. In 2009, all 7 remaining Hitachi sets, including our mate 1946, were given a refurbishment, being mostly stripped back to silver externally with a few small patches of Connex blue and yellow. The passenger windows were replaced with tinted glass to help keep temperatures down in summer, and the interiors got the Connex blue seats and green handrails. At the end of 2009, they passed into the hands of new operator Metro Trains Melbourne, who ran them to the end of their service lives just a few years later, and 1946T has been in storage at Newport Workshops ever since. For its new life on the tourist railway, the car has received a very minimalist restoration. Externally, it's still mostly silver, but the Connex blue car number has been replaced by a single panel of matte green and yellow. On the doors are what at first might appear to be authentic 1990s power-operated doors stickers, but on closer inspection these are manual-operated door stickers customised for use at Mornington. There are also some surviving Metlink stickers by the doors, the predecessor to PTV, which was taken over in 2012. Inside, the car looks virtually identical to the day it left the suburban network in 2013, with the blue and green refurbished interior, and there's even some authentic 2010s graffiti. I wonder what Mr. Steads is up to these days. Hopefully he's found something better to do with his time. The network maps displayed on the wall date from the 1st of December 2009, the day after Metro took over from Connex. They show the Metro and Metlink logos and don't show the extension from Epping to South Morang, which was still a couple of years away, but did open while this car was still in service. When they operated as electric trains, the doors were closed remotely by the driver. However, for operation at the tourist railway, the doors are locked manually and opened at stations by the volunteer staff as required. The only significant mechanical modification required to run as part of this train was changing the type of couplings. Because Hitachi trailer cars always ran in semi-permanent sets coupled between a pair of motor cars, They were fitted with solid drawbars, which have no slack and aren't designed to be easily uncoupled. 1946T has had its drawbars replaced with conventional automatic knuckle couplings to match the rest of Mornington's rolling stock. So, after 12 long years, what was it like riding a Hitachi again? Well, riding in a car that is supposed to be part of an electric suburban train without power and behind a steam loco is quite a weird experience. But it is something I've experienced before, with the electric Tait cars being steam-hauled dead on many occasions in 2017-2018. As an enthusiast of electric traction, a lot of the tangible characteristics of being on an electric train come from the way they move and the way they sound when under their own power. And specifically in the case of this car, the majority of those distinctive sounds would have come from the motor cars coupled either side of it. So for me at least, it is a slightly uncanny valley sensation to be in a carriage that looks and feels like, and of course is, a Hitachi, but doesn't sound like one and certainly doesn't accelerate like one. It also doesn't smell like one. In service, Hitachis had an almost constant smell of hot brake blocks as they made hard, frequent stops at suburban stations. But while this car does still have the same brakes, they don't get used hard enough on this line to produce the smell. There was one sound this car made which really hit me with a wave of nostalgia though. I couldn't have previously told you that Hitachi cars have a very distinctive air brake sound, but the second I heard this, I was taken right back. The rest of the soundscape, however, was certainly a little different to riding the 817 from Eltham in 2008. Sounds and smells aside, most of the physical experience, of course, felt 100% Hitachi. Those wonderful padded seats, thicker than anything on the modern trains, the steel and leather strap hangers, the windowsill that works well as an armrest, which only some trains have today, the very dark view through the 2 layers of tinted glass when the window is open, and of course the window opening mechanism itself. And the slightly uncomfortable feeling of resting your arm on the aluminium frame, but also the fact that it's the perfect height to lean on while standing up. I have many, many memories of cruising around the suburban network in this position. Even when exhausted on an afternoon commute, I usually rode these trains standing up. So it's obviously pretty unusual to have a single carriage from a suburban electric multiple unit being used as part of a steam-hauled train like this, but who here is cool enough to have noticed that 1946T is not actually the only former electric trailer car in this train? Up the other end is this car, 98G, which is a trailer car from a Tait electric suburban train. However, unlike the presence of the Hitachi trailer, which is pretty weird, I didn't say bad weird, just weird, 98G's inclusion in this train does actually have a historical precedent. In the early 20th century, traffic on suburban lines used to drop off a lot during holiday periods, but traffic on country lines used to increase as people travelled the state to holiday or visit family. To help balance this shift in demand, some Tait trailer cars were designed to be taken out of their suburban sets during the holidays and used as country carriages, and in addition to their electric lights, they were fitted with gas lighting that could be used anywhere, hence the letter G as the classification. 98G is a much later build than the other preserved Tait cars you will have seen on this channel. It's from 1944 and shows many later design changes, most obviously the arched roof instead of the clerestory roof on the older cars, and metal plating covering the timber sides, which gives it a much flatter look. It also has solid square bracing keeping the underframe straight, unlike the adjustable rods on the early cars. 98 is the only later build Tait car in operating condition, and it's really good to see it out here representing the history of a G car in unelectrified country operation. All in all, while it might not seem like an obvious choice, I think this car is actually very practical for this kind of operation. It's very high capacity and comparatively low maintenance. That stainless steel body will basically last forever. Despite being a very different experience to riding a Hitachi under the wires, I think it's fantastic that the Mornington Tourist Railway is providing us with an opportunity to relive travelling on this type of train, which was previously operationally extinct. And it's a chance for a new generation of enthusiasts to travel on one for the first time. It's also an opportunity for a much wider demographic of people to experience rail heritage with a personal connection. While we all love travelling in the wooden cars, most people alive today, myself included, have only ever experienced them in the preservation context. I don't have personal memories of them as a commuter, but I certainly do with a Hitachi, and I'm not the only one. I overheard some young parents reminiscing to their kids about travelling on these very trains when they were younger. Maybe they'd travelled in this very car. I almost certainly did. So, while it's certainly not a traditional VR branch line scene having a stainless steel trailer car thrown into a train like this, and I'm sure some people won't be happy about that, it is creating a new way for people to appreciate rail heritage and will perhaps attract passengers with a different range of interests to what is otherwise a very traditional tourist railway. So if you've always wanted to ride on a Hitachi, or like me have been waiting 12 years to do so again, now's your chance. I'll put a link to the railway's website down below, and thank you very much for watching.